Okay, hello all. I'm Katie June Friesen with the Small Business Anti-Displacement Network, or SBAN. And today we're talking with SBAN member Mileyka Burgos-Flores, who is the founding executive director of the Allapattah Collaborative CDC in Miami. Welcome, Mileyka. Thanks for talking with us.
Oh, thank you so much for the opportunity and the invitation.
So yeah, tell us about your work at the Allapattah Collaborative and the community in which you work. What issues are you trying to address?
Well, at the Allapattah Collaborative, we are obviously a 501c3 nonprofit organization, specifically in Miami, Florida, that focuses on the Allapattah neighborhood, historically a Dominican American neighborhood. Basically, our community initiative focused on preventing displacement in this disinvested community and supporting minority micro businesses, specifically on their storefront to prevent that gentrification. We are very much place-based. We use the Main Street approach to do our work, mainly preserving and expanding that cultural authenticity and asset building in Allapattah. And I guess that the biggest outcome that we like to see is to revitalize our commercial neighborhood, the commercial corridor, and also mitigate climate gentrification pressures, among other issues that impact the people in our community. So we are in the nexus of like a lot of things that are happening at the same time in Miami. So we are, looking forward to more open mobility, more sustainable neighborhoods, more prosperous micro businesses, and definitely preventing the displacement of our community.
So if we were to visit Allapattah for the first time, what should we know about who and what makes it what it is?
People make Allapattah. Allapattah is a historic neighborhood in the city of Miami. It's been disinvested badly since the 60s. Allapattah it's a neighborhood of immigrants. It's a neighborhood of the people that need that shelter and that space. For example, when Overtown, that used to be called Color Town, unfortunately they built 95 across Overtown, and a lot of those people came to move to Allapattah and also to neighboring communities like Brownsville. The Ebenezer Church came straight from Overtown. The Dominican community that came in the 80s and 90s, that made the community so much more vibrant. The Cuban community that came in the 60s. So it's been a melting pot, a welcoming spot in Miami. But at the same time, it's been harshly disinvested.
Can you tell us a little bit about some of the small businesses there? Who makes the business community there?
Yes, so back to that disinvestment. In 1980, May of 1980, we had an unfortunate event in our community. It was riots. There's a gentleman called Arthur McDuffie. That gentleman was a Black gentleman in a motorcycle that was killed by white police officers. And right after that, these riots destroyed a lot of our community. And what happened after that is that no one would insure these businesses. The immigrant community that was coming in took upon the risk of opening up these storefronts and starting a new economy by putting in barbershops and hair salons and restaurants and travel businesses and multi-services and places to send money home, all of that. And slowly but surely, since the early 80s until late 2000s, it became a microeconomy that sustained itself and welcomed many immigrants of Dominican descent.
Talk to us about the issue of gentrification and displacement. What do you hear these small business owners saying to you about this? What are their concerns? What are their needs?
Their biggest concern is that this rent has steadily been going up since past 5 to 7 years. Rent always goes up, and that's understandable, but it's the pace and the amount of the rent that's going up that's really eating into their profits. And after the pandemic, it was a lot more dire. Like, I'm really happy that we were there to support these small businesses and prevent them closing their storefronts during the pandemic, because Honestly, that's their biggest concern right now. Like Miami last year, everything got like rent increased by 30%. And how do you sustain not only your business, but your employees that now their rent and everything, got, was raised 30%. Do you give them an increase? Where does this money come from? So you really need to have new ways of business development, new ways of streamlining your business for maximum productivity to make sure that they can keep up with the market. And that's exactly what we're helping them to do. There's no reason for these rents to go up at the level they have, other than taxes that go up, of course, but they don't have any more foot traffic today than they had 2 years ago or 3 years ago, I mean, before the pandemic. So it's more about speculation, the whole rate rising of the rent. We have vacancies in our community. We have vacancies and we have a rental rate that is really does not commensurate with the type of community that it is and with the level of foot traffic that it gets and the type of people that are part of that foot traffic. So it's really concerning for that reason, because it's like a forced change of like, we're gonna rent a site that used to be $1,000 now for $3,000, but maybe that service is geared towards the community or maybe not.
Right.
Because sometimes the people from the community are not able to afford that level of rent. So it's people that come from elsewhere, and now the demographic starts changing and the services that community actually needs are not now available because of this whole situation. So it's challenging.
I know that one of the things I believe that your organization is looking into is community ownership.
Yes.
And I believe you have a new study and a plan that you're working on. Can you say something about that as a solution to these issues?
Yeah, we are very clear that ownership is the main, and I'm not saying the only, but one of the best ways that we can prevent gentrification. If we are able to understand the essence of our community, the assets in our community, the people that make our community whole, that are the fabric of our community, and we work on grounding those people, those businesses for long-term sustainability as legacy businesses, we're pretty sure that we'll be able to maintain our community and save them a little bit from that displacement. So we are looking into ways that we are able to provide ownership to these small businesses of their storefront, like ownership of their storefront, but definitely in shared equity models, because it's about maintaining the community affordable and maintaining it in a way that the people from the community can remain in the community. So now what we want is to find key partners that are really open and receptive to shared equity models and to ownership for communities that have been chronically disinvested, like Allapattah. And now, if we're able to partner with, public, private, philanthropists, you name it, and we're able to make that happen in a sustainable manner and in a way that it uplifts the community, that's the ideal goal. So right now, we're looking for ideal partnerships on people that want to invest in that, in shared equity models, and also specifically in the ownership of assets in a way of bringing Black and Brown folks in small businesses into asset building. Racial equity means economic equity. Racial equity, it's about access. Racial equity is about being able to have the same starting point. I was just talking to a colleague and says many times people don't understand that not everyone starts at 0. Some people start at -5 or -27. So there's so many other challenges that they need to overcome, and that's what we call privilege. Privilege is being able to start at 0.
How did you come to this work? Why do you do what you do?
Honestly, it's a stringing of my heart. I really love my work because I see my family in it. I come from a family of entrepreneurs, of small entrepreneurs, of technical entrepreneurs, and every single time I look at the small businesses in our Main Street corridor, it reminds me of my family, and it reminds me of me as an immigrant and my parents as immigrants coming to this country and putting every single egg in one basket.
Right.
And this is the basket. And it's that this tiny small business, and this is the small business that's gonna feed us, that's gonna pay our rent, that's gonna keep us afloat, that's gonna put you through college, that's gonna make sure that we have a different future and that we can, access that American dream. And that's exactly what I see in every single small business in our commercial corridor every single time we help them. Sometimes they're a little bit reluctant because they don't trust it, because they don't know the system. And that's the same reluctancy that I see in some of my own family members when they don't really understand something in the American system. Because, as immigrants, we may know the world in a certain way, but now when we come to this country, sometimes things need to be seen a different manner, or things were totally different. And I grew up in this country and I understand a lot of it, but sometimes explaining the same thing to my grandparents or my parents or some aunts and uncles is a little bit challenging. But that's what I see when I look at this commercial corridor. And I see also, what can I share to my children about me being a Dominican American woman in Miami? How can I share who we are, our essence, and the melting pot of America? I want to make sure that they have something to look forward to. And I feel that also the work that we're doing makes Miami richer, culturally richer, makes the United States much richer. The contribution of immigrants in this country is undeniable, and we're just a piece of that too.